Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much, as always, for making your way here. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I am so excited today to be talking with G-Eazy about a brand new record. These things happen two, and also two.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah. How's it going?
I'm great. How you doing over there?
I'm good. I'm a lot of feelings. I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm relieved. I'm on the verge of giving birth to something I've been pregnant with for the better part of 3 years. I've put my whole entire life into. I'm somebody who's like a bit obsessive with my work ethic, and I don't really know what to do with myself. And then if I'm not working, and then when you compound that with the pandemic and everything, I just kept piling and pouring into this project. And for me to sequel my first album that really changed my life and, broke everything through in a big way, I wanted to do it with integrity and focus and intent of, doing it right, and thematically and sonically circle back, and then make it feel like a true, sequel to the first one that, both has elements that are, that are reminiscent of the first one and nostalgic, and at the same time show the maturation and evolution of, the 7-year journey that's completely changed my world and universe and taken me around the universe and back.
So I think the obvious question here, as you're saying, a sequel to a record, why now? What put you in the reflective mood at this point?
Well, I mean, I think there's this like attachment that a lot of, from the listener side is, they have this relationship and attachment to an artist, and especially like a period of time that artist was in and creating within, and they want to hold on to that. And I kind of, for better for worse, sometimes I carry this, almost responsibility, or not guilt, but like, the worst thing you could hear is that like, oh, he changed or he's not, but at the same time, it's, it's the freedom of any human being's life to, to freely be who you want to be. You can't make everybody happy. But at the same time, I'm somebody with very, very, very deep roots and strong loyalty to the things that have made me and the place that I'm from, and, an appreciation and an awareness of how I got here. And while, evolution is important, so is, maintaining your roots and, staying true to that. So it's kind of that balance.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of, since 2017, since your last album, you released a lot of singles. There have been collaborations and everything. So were these songs like planned, like I want to write a sequel, so these songs have to be written as sequels, or did you find, or was it one of those things where you just sort of found yourself drifting in that way and maybe leaned into it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. Sequels are common, especially in hip hop. But to be completely just bluntly honest, I feel like sometimes they almost feel like a marketing ploy, as opposed to a, what does this really have to do with the first one? Like what like, it's like, Batman Returns is suddenly about, Superman. It's like, well, what did that have to do with Batman? It's a complete departure. But no, but at the same time, I don't want to reheat the same soup. So I picked out certain records that to me felt like pillars of the general theme and sound, and what defined what was the strongest about what the first one represented, and tried to kind of sequel those in ways that were referencing, but not, directly, recreations of. But I don't know, it's a complicated process. I did 436 songs for this album.
What?
Yeah, and I worked on it for 3 years, and I drove myself a bit crazy. It was a very hard process killing that many babies, and narrowing it down to what we ended up with. But at the end of the day, not to take it more seriously than it needs to, be taken at the end of the day as a rap album that I like worked really hard on, but it's just music. I make music most every night because I don't know what else to do with myself, and it's what I enjoy, and it's what I have spent the majority and bulk of my life dedicated to. And this is the culmination of a few years and a complete dedication to a craft, and the pouring out of my soul into one particular place.
I mean, that many songs is amazing. I mean, some artists write that many songs in their life, and some artists, write a million songs. But I mean, was there ever even a thought like, okay, this is the set, but I've got so many others? I mean, that you get Things Happen to Part 2. I mean, is that,
Yeah, I think you just, I mean, one of my biggest heroes, legend where I'm from, the most important rapper from my region, E40, is probably the most prolific, rapper in terms of, and I don't doubt that there's like other people somewhere in the world that have maybe, but in terms of like successful, relevant, people that matter to culture and to the genre, I mean, 40's definitely probably, categorically the most prolific. So he's somebody I look up to and respect. And, he's been doing it for over 25 years and over, 30 plus albums. So it's just what we do. I mean, athletes retire when their bodies tell them that you can't play the sports anymore. Creatives, artists, I don't know what else to do with myself. I don't know what to say.
Well, we hit a few of the tracks on here too. Especially that pertain to what we're talking about here too, because Gerald, like, maybe this is an odd question, so I'll see if I can frame this right. But does the past look the same in hindsight as what it felt like in the moments, like when you're writing these? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all nostalgic for the past, and I think even more so throughout the past 18 months or 2 years, whatever it's been, is that you have this longing and this romanticizing of yesteryear, past times, or like a time when you thought of a different way. But I mean, time and life moves in one direction, and it is what it is. Life just goes on, and I think that record is a big unapologetic, not fuck you, but essentially a fuck you, in the sense of just like, I am who I am. This is me saying I can't make everybody happy. I'm doing the best to stay true to myself and make what I want to make and be exactly who I am. But you're gonna have to take that for what it is.
Yeah. I'll also hit on time here too, because obviously for the title right there alone, it's hit. And you got Matt Shultz on there, right? From Cage, right down the road from me. Matt from Bowling Green. I'm here in Louisville. Love that band's. So I would ask kind of the two-part here, like how did Matt end up on the record? Like, what's your all's friendship, and what led to this song? Because this is like the Letters song, which some of my all-time favorites have sort of been in that style.
Yeah, no, I mean, that record, the concept is, if you could write a letter to somebody you've lost and catch them up on, everything that's happened since. It's a very deeply personal record. And Matt and I, we were on a tour together. It was Lollapalooza, South America. And anytime you tour with people, it almost feels like summer camp, or, you're hanging out with the same people every day. And I was a huge Caged Elephant fan. I would watch their show, every night, for the first few days of that tour. And then finally I went to the dressing room, like, man, I'm just gonna go introduce myself. And it was one of those like just instant connections, instant friendships, and we're pretty much inseparable the rest of the tour. And, he's been a very good friend of mine ever since. So I knew that if I asked him, to help me with that record, he was somebody who would get it. And somebody I could trust and share something that deeply personal with. That record is one of the deepest and most vulnerable and most honest things I've ever written. It's hard to go there. So I mean, he got it immediately.
Yeah, it's a powerful moment. I mean, there are powerful moments all over this album. Faithful is such a great song.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And since we're sort of talking a little bit of rock and roll with Matt and everything, I mean, that guitar especially on there kind of stands out against everything. Like, were you going for anything specific?
I mean, that one to me, people that think about pop, the thing about pop is it's popular, and it, resonates with, a lot of people, and in a like commonality sense of like, what do a lot of people relate to? And that's just, I think it's a beautiful love song. I think that like could be a wedding song. I think that could be a generational thing that connects people and brings them together. It's like, I think it channels some elements of Even Lean on Me, and, just these like timeless, just generational records that, that was the inspiration is, and I've always been inspired by records that stand the test of time in terms of decades. And I think that's a dream as an artist, to create something that can impact people around the world and can last and stand the test of time, and, really impact people's lives and mean something. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it also seems like a song that's maybe musically, I guess, speaking more than anything, the bridge between this record and Everything Strange Here.
Yeah. That one, and I say probably the cover of Wicked Game, Chris Isaac. So like during the pandemic, I mean, it was, unprecedented for everybody, but, for me, it was a time to, to reflect inwardly and, just be grateful that I have a home and a roof over my head. Everybody doesn't have a safe home to stay inside of. Like when it was a mandatory lockdown, that just made me think about, positions that other people in are like, and to look around me and really be grateful for what I do have, and to say, all right, what are you going to do with this time? How are you going to, use it to, be productive or grow or evolve or, do something new? I mean, these opportunities don't always come. And I'm, as an artist, you kind of live out of a suitcase. I was on tour for the better part of like 7-8 years, straight. I've had this house for a few years, but I'd never really spent more than like a week at a time in it. All of a sudden I'm here, and, I have this piano and I'm sitting at it, and I'm, like relearning how to play, and I'm like taking vocal lessons on FaceTime, and I'm just like, all right, wow, this is a unique opportunity to go into my studio and make something without, set up sessions with an expectation of doing what I'm, normally used to doing or what I'm expected to do. And let me just try something that's, it's a freedom, and be cognizant and aware and appreciative of that freedom that you currently have, and, try new things. And, there's a learning curve. Prior to that, I thought I was tone deaf all life, but like, most of the rap is just, it's a monotone thing, and, the tempos and subject matter are relatively, similar for the most part. And, it becomes a bit repetitive, and I've been doing this for about 17, 18 years. So it was exciting to try something new. And singing has been a huge challenge, but it's been exciting to push myself and, slowly grow through work and, and yeah, I mean, the world of melody and, song, is something I've always, loved and appreciated.
Yeah.
Outside of just bars and, drums.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, I'll bring up Wicked Game too, but just hitting on, like, you covered Lazarus. Like, I'm surrounded by some Bowie
Yeah, you're
pictures
surrounded by
behind
Bowie,
me.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, like, first off, Black Star is one of the greatest records of all time.
Right.
Hearing that someone is going to cover that one, though, it's not the typical era that people usually go for Bowie.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you all the props on that point right there. But but then to pull it off, like, it's a really good cover.
I appreciate that. I don't know if everybody felt the same way, but it I just like I just went for, freedom and I call it bravery or whatever. I mean, just like, I just was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to go for it. And that's not something that, that is often, or like always, offered or provided or given in the industry of, being on a major label and doing popular music, and you're not given that opportunity all the time. And I just felt like, I'm just gonna try things that I genuinely feel, and win or lose, or I'm just gonna put my all into this, and put my heart into it and go for it.
Yeah, well, it was great, and I'll say the same thing about Wicked Game. I mean, even of course, it's totally different than something like Lazarus. I mean, it's an iconic song.
Yeah.
Which I went and looked it up. Came out like less than a month after you or before you were born. Like that was like
That's
like
crazy.
you were.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like you arrived with that song more or less.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that's wild. Yeah.
So just hearing you do some of that stuff like that, I do really want to quickly hit on a couple of your collaborations recently, of course, with a single with Demi Lovato on here. One, hearing the two of you all and what you're doing, it's powerful. The hooks are so good on that. The video, I don't want to make any assumptions, but it looks like a powerful statement that you guys are pushing across. And I'd wonder if you'd talk about that a bit as well.
We're both human beings. Human beings are complicated. Demi and I are both complicated people, to say the least. It's one thing to be in the public eye as a person who's not perfect, but to be examined and discussed and critiqued, criticized, ripped apart, praised, loved, hated, constantly talked about and viewed, and all these things. And not to be cliche and complain about any of that, but just to vulnerably and honestly present awareness of that, and to share truths about our inner psyches and inner feelings and inner struggles, highs and lows, and to share things that Demi and I have shared, things that Demi and I have a commonality between us, and to publicly omit and discuss and present and be honest about. I think that's a powerful tool in music, is to be honest, vulnerable, and open about things that are human, because we are not the only people that are human. There are other people that are human, and the voice of, singers, rappers, musicians is sometimes to share those things that are innately, imperfectly human, and to say, this is me, I'm laying it all out there. And, to own it is to give a voice to others who also share that, who don't have the tool of music, but to give those words and that song, and to give strength to those, and I think that's just one of those. To me, it's a really, really, really special record for that reason.
Yeah, it's again, it's powerful to watch it and to hear what you guys are going through within that video. And then really quickly, you got with Diane Warren and Santana, for She's Fire, and what that's a surprising one as a fan. Like, I didn't see that one coming. How did you end up on that record?
Man, that one, mid-pandemic, mutual friend linked Diane Warren with me. I get a call from Diane, and I'm just kind of like shooketh. I'm like, what? Yeah. And she's like, I have a record that I want to get to you, that I would love to, have you cut. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're a legend, At the end of the day, I'm like a fan forever and ever and ever. I worship and I appreciate music, and I appreciate those who are really, really, really great at it and have contributed a ton to it, as she has, and Santana has, and when she said, will you do the song with Santana? I'm like, are you shitting me? And she sends it to me, and I listen, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, where do you want me to rap? And she's like, no, like, I want you to, it had like a demo vocal on it. And I was like, what you want me to sing? And she's like, yeah, I love your singing voice. And, for me, it's like, I'm confident in my ability, as what I'm, professionally like good at, like categorically speaking, saying. I mean, I've spent 17 years like rapping, but singing, you know, it's a whole different thing. It's like, you know, I'm very new to this, and I'm not fully, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a singer. There's people that are like, you know, I dated somebody for a very long time who spent her whole life in, you know, vocal lessons and vocal performance major at college, and is, you know, one of the best singers, and you know, and so I have like respect for, you know, that craft and that religion of vocal, you know, and I'm like, you're Diane Warren, you write for, you know what I mean, what do you want me? Like, and it was a like a lesson for me, because I was like, okay, we'll say less, because I'm also like a confident and assertive and like just, you know, ballsy person. I was like, okay, well, say less. And I have a studio in my home, and you know, 30, 45 minutes later, I sent her back a cut. Like, I went straight to my studio. I don't know what I was doing. It didn't matter. Ran down to my studio and I cut it. I recorded it, and I wasted no time. And she was like, wait, how, like, you just did this? And I was like, yeah. She was like, where studio? Like, who engineered? I was like, I did it. Like, myself. I take this seriously. And like, it's a chance to work with you and Santana. You know,
Right.
you just do that. Yeah. And you know, it worked out, and it was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, to be able to, you know, to you look like you take a little bit of pleasure too in surprising people with your taste and influence. And I think that's one of the fun things about kind of following your career, you know, is those left turns. Like, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff, man. And I'll bring it all back around again with this record. These things happen too. I mean, it's such an interesting project, and you've knocked it out. I mean, what you're doing here. So congratulations on this, man. And thanks for taking the time to talk about it too.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.